3 ways to stop Trump before the 2020 election. This is who ran the Transition Integrity Project that I'm about to walk you through. 3 ways to get rid of Trump before 2020 by Rosa Brooks, extremely powerful military official for the Obama administration. She wrote this January 30th, 2017. Trump had only been in office for 10 days. He was inaugurated January 20th, 2017. She wrote in Foreign Policy, Elite Mainstream Press, 3 ways to get rid of President Trump before the next election. That election cycle just concluded 10 days ago. Are we really stuck with this guy? But the magic in this article is not the 3 ways. It's what's below the fold. You go to archive.is, get around the paywall for a second. Rosa Brooks wrote, even though the article is called 3 ways to get rid of Trump before 2020, as a high-ranking military official, actually, very deep down, she says, actually, there's a 4th way. I didn't want to put it in the title of the piece because it's kind of insurrectionary. The 4th possibility is one that until recently, I would have said was unthinkable in the United States of America, a military coup. So a high-ranking Undersecretary of Defense for Policy, a high-ranking Obama military official says actually there's 10 days into Trump's first term in office, less than 2 weeks in office. A high-ranking military official from the Obama administration says 3 ways to get rid of Trump before the next election. Impeach him, indict him, get him to step down, congressional, blah, blah, blah. But she writes, actually, there's a 4th way. I wouldn't have considered this before. We have to be kind of hush-hush about this. The 4th way is a military coup. We can military coup Trump out of office. So this person who openly wrote in mainstream press that we should consider a military coup, a coup to depose the democratically elected president just 10 days into his presidency, she would go on to spearhead one of the craziest scandals in American history that I think probably only me and at this point, like my subscribers have really gotten drilled into their head. Now, the Transition Integrity Project was said to be a war game exercise over several days in June 2020. Remember that because Cole bought these pipe bomb parts over 2 phases. June 1 and June 8, so early June 2020, exactly when the Transition Integrity Project held their war games. I believe it was June 5th and 6th or something. And then again in November 2020. Now, before I read you this document, I want you to understand that the highest levels of American political power did this war game run by Rosa Brooks, the Pentagon senior official who openly called for organizing a military coup. Who was a part of this that I'm about to read you? Michael Steele, the former head of the RNC, the former head of the Republican Party. John Podesta, Hillary Clinton's campaign manager, the White House chief of staff, and the guy who would be promoted to running a $375 billion slush fund to hand out $375 billion in taxpayer money to DNC friends and cronies. The former governor of Michigan, before Whitmer. Donna Brazile, the former head of the DNC. So these are the never Trump, and also Bill Kristol, the IRI, never Trump, CIA, Republican, ghost of George Bush, never Trump Republican side, as well as Max Boot there. And so what you have is the heads of both political parties, as well as governors, the most vicious political operatives, You had military and intelligence people. I think there were 70 some high-ranking military, intelligence, diplomatic, and political operatives on both sides of the aisle. On the Republican side, they were all the never-Trumpers who wanted Biden to win. Now, what they produced, and this is a public document. This is just, you can look this up. This is a Judicial Watch. This is another copy. This is all written about in mainstream press. We either did not take a critical eye to what it said or, shall I say, whitewashed it to try to stop the scandal and hoped you wouldn't read the passages I'm about to. Nominally, it says they convened. Now, this report they issued the report in August, but they held it in early June as soon as the George Floyd riots kicked off in late May, June 2020. As Black Lives Matter protests were shutting down the country, these assholes and apex predators of the blob world got together and thought, how can we use the street mobs of Black Lives Matter to potentially color revolution Trump out of taking office if he wins the election? Now, they tried to say it's preventing a disrupted election in case Trump tries to stay in power. We need a color revolution capacity to get Trump out of office in case he clings to power. That's how the press reported this. But I want you to look at two things. First, the appendix gives it away. The appendix is called Will Trumpism Survive a Trump Loss? And what they say is, okay, let's just say Trump loses the election in this red mirage, blue shift event that people are going to think is fishy. Many observers, just independent observers, right, expect Trump to try to extend his norm-disrupting influence after he leaves office through an independent media company or partnerships. The participants in this war game we're about to read, which I'll just jump to a quick spoiler, included how to stop Trump from taking office even if he clearly wins the Electoral College 52-47 by mobilizing Black Lives Matter street protests, actions in the streets, mobilizing racial justice activists so that Biden could mobilize them in the event of a clear Trump win to color revolution him out of office, street protest him out of office, force him to step down. And they went through all the steps. They'd have blue states secede. They do an alternate electors plot, the same thing that they openly planned to do if Trump won the election. They then arrested Rudy Giuliani and 19 people on an alternate electors plot that they themselves openly plotted to do that they would be doing if Trump won. And they just assumed that Black Lives Matter would mobilize in the event of a Biden call to take to the streets. A Biden call to take to the streets. But they said, well, we'll need to do more testing. We just assumed they would in this war game. We should robustly test their likely receptivity, these racial justice, the Black Lives of the George Floyd riots, so they can be mobilized at election time in case Trump clearly wins the election. And so what they called to do is for the Democrat Party, the scale of recent demonstrations has increased the stakes for the Democratic Party to build strong ties with Black Lives Matter and be responsive to the movement's demands. Give Black Lives Matter what they want. Give them $50 billion in Chamber of Commerce money. If you remember, Chamber of Commerce signed the secret deal with the AFL-CIO. That was the crux of the Molly Ball Time magazine article, to have the protesters stand down when it was announced Biden won. So between June 2020 and November 2020, the Democrat Party openly planned the highest levels, head of the party, high-ranking Democrat military officials, to do favors for Black Lives Matter so that Black Lives Matter would owe them favors and be responsive to a Biden call to take to the streets to street protest Trump out of office if he won 52-47 in a landslide electoral college victory. They had way more on this. We'll get to that. But coming back to this point, so with the highest levels of power in the White House, John Podesta, in the military, Rosa Brooks, at the political party level, Donna Brazile and Michael Steele, former heads of both political parties. And mind you, Where were the bombs? Where did the January 6th pipe bomber drop the bombs? At the RNC headquarters, which is run by Michael STEELE, who participated in this open coup plot to overturn the election if Trump won the Electoral College. And the DNC headquarters run by Donna Brazile, who also participated in this open coup plot. Remember that. So what they say, again, we're in the annex, because whatever you want to think about what we're about to read in this Clear Trump Wins section, which is fucking insane, they give the game away about the whole purpose of this election coup simulation in Appendix C. What they say is even if Trump loses, will Trumpism survive a Trump loss? How can we make sure to get rid of Trump? Even if Trump loses, how do we defeat Trumpism permanently? The problem is Trumpism might survive even if Trump loses. So we need to take out the whole movement. We need a way to do that. And they say the problem is because if Trump loses and steps down, he'll still have this huge media presence. Trump, with his 80 million follower Twitter account, will attack Biden early and consistently, blaming all the problems in a country on a combination of the stolen election and the incompetence of the Biden administration. They knew Biden would be incompetent. They knew he'd fuck it up in exactly the way that he did. And he knew that he'd give them billions of dollars in their NGO money and all this bullshit. And so Trump will relentlessly hammer as the loser of the election. If only the election hadn't been stolen from me, everything in the country would be great again. Such a message could lead to electing far-right candidates to Congress, providing an anchor for ex-President Trump's proposals. Oh no, the democratic process. People might vote for Trump-like candidates. Trumpism may get even stronger if Trump loses and we don't do something big to be able to prosecute and get rid of all Trump supporters. Don't believe me that that's where they're going? Well, watch this. How should an anti-authoritarian interest, this is all blobcraft, right? Everything's democracy versus autocracy. When all you have is a hammer, everything's a nail. All CIA activity has to be pro-democracy against autocracy. So the participants in the open coup plot to overturn the election if in the case of a clear Trump win urged Democrats to embrace a new playbook. They said Democrats should not rely on litigation, moral suasion, or merely hoping that Republicans in Congress will come to their senses. Instead, they should publicly support the George Floyd riots. But wait, there's more. There was near universal agreement what do you know? Universal agreement among 70 military intelligence and high-level political operatives, all anti-Trump, that all these anti-Trump coup plotters had universal agreement that in the event of a Trump loss, the GOP strategy will be to create trouble for the incoming Biden administration, to retake ground in 2022 and retake the White House in 2024. Spoiler alert, bitches, that happened. GOP activists, possibly encouraged by Trump himself and by far-right media, may seek to do the same thing we're doing as we speak right now in Minneapolis. If the GOP holds the Senate, even more dramatic blocking actions. Now here's the money shot. This is again from the highest echelons of power in Washington, D.C., unanimously agreeing that after running this war game exercise on how to successfully stop Trump from getting inaugurated, if he wins a clear election victory in the Electoral College, here are the recommendations in June 2020, exactly when Brian Cole was buying the pipe bomb parts that he would later allegedly deposit at the DNC and RNC headquarters, while you have the former DNC and RNC leaders making these recommendations. One question is whether to continue the tradition of offering legal immunity to Trump and his family. They wanted to find a way to arrest Donald Trump, to take out Trumpism after Trump.